episode and the final episode of the season of Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenu. Our last episode of this season will be about the Alaska Triangle. Now, bear with me, I'm not using my normal site, I'm using a different site, so I don't know what to expect because the layout's going to be a little different, but assuming it's going to be a little bit of the same. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle. You heard me talk about the Bridgewater Triangle earlier this season, I believe. Well, now it's the Alaska Triangle. Now, I know what you're thinking, Justin. What the hell is the Alaska Triangle? Well, for cryptozoologists, people into the paranormal, into the unknown, like Bigfoot, UFOs, aliens, and triangles and stuff, like I've been talking about this entire series, triangles aren't just the Bermuda Triangle anymore. For years it was, but now it's expanded. Different types of triangles, and they all contain different strange shit. Without further ado, the Alaska Triangle. The Alaska Triangle is a vast area in the remote U.S. state of Alaska, which is probably the least known area. For cryptozoologists to study around, the borders of this spot begin at Barrow in the far north, Anchorage in the south, and extends to Juneau in the southeast, then back up to Barrow again. So basically, when they call something a triangle, I'll explain this. Just because something's considered like a triangle, like the Bermuda Triangle, for example, that originally started as a triangle. But over the years, it like what started off as the Bermuda Triangle has now pretty much become like it started as like a Ouija board, like one of those the things on a Ouija board, and then it just became this amorphous blob. The Alaska Triangle sounds like it is a legit triangle, for the most part. The two places I've actually heard of, Anchorage and Juneau, and then Barrow, so it does form a triangle. Bear with me a minute here. Trying to see if I can get the spot back. Okay. All right, so Barrow, Anchorage, and Juneau. Add. This triangle is thought to contain mysterious creatures and secrets hidden in the wild Alaskan bush. Many of the reports of missing people are centered here as well, which may have something to do with the possible cryptids that supposedly roam there. So, like any good mystery story, there's creatures here. Like any good triangle that has creatures, there's missing people to go with it. So, reports from this place may either be about sightings of massive big feet. It's just big feet, not Bigfoot. Never seen that before. Why is my hair weird? My hair is really weird today. Reports from this place may either be about sightings of massive big feet to as far as a plane of being swallowed up into a vortex. So there's actually a show on History Channel called Mystery the Alaska Triangle, and one of the things that they suggest in typical Justin fashion, I'm going to tell you something, and then we're probably going to come across it on the article that I haven't read yet. So one of the things that are suggested is that the Bigfoot in Alaska travel through time using vortexes. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before in another video, but how insane is that? Like, for all the Bigfoot stories you've ever heard in your entire life, I guarantee you did not just hear the one that I just told you. That the Bigfoot that are reported in Alaska are time travelers, and they use vortex to travel. There are actual, people that believe that. Do I believe that? No. That's a little too far into believing for me. On television. Let's say I don't know what that's telling. I guess that's just media. So that was literally this article. So it literally just left us off with that. So I have to go to another site. All right, here we go. And it's loading. My phone's not slow, it's just this site is insane. Okay, and there we go. All right. Sorry. The Alaska, we already know that the Alaska Triangle is an area of Alaska's Bermuda Triangle, is a place of untouched wilderness of the frontier state where mystery lingers and people go missing at a very high rate. What the? There we go. The Alaska Triangle connects the state. We already know this. The area began attracting public attention in October 1972 when a small private plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs, Alaska Congressman Nick Begich, an aide Russell Brown, and their bush pilot Don Johns. His name is Don Johns. Seemingly vanished into thin air while flying from Anchorage to Juneau. For more than a month, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read this. It's just really confusing. For more than a month, 50 civilian planes and 40 military aircrafts, plus a dozen of boats, covered a search area of 32,000 square miles, but no trace of the plane, the men, wreckage, or debris were ever found. So let that sink in for a minute. Most of the time, well, actually, not most of the time, that's not true. In some cases, we'll go with 50%. When boats, planes, or whatever go missing, years later or something, they find like a little bit of debris. Debris is found, clothing of one of the people, something is found. Sometimes nothing is found. In this case, nothing is found. Not the men, not a trace of the plane, no wreckage, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Afterwards, more planes went down, hikers went missing, and Alaskan residents and tourists seemed to vanish into thin air. In fact, since 1988, more than 16,000 people have disappeared in the Alaska Triangle, with a missing person rate at more than twice the national average. Who would have thought, right? You think nobody lives in Alaska because it's cold? You'd be wrong. Alaska's really big, massively big. And apparently, they have a massive missing persons rate. In any given year, 500 to 2,000 people go missing in Alaska, never to be seen again. I'm going to put my phone down for that one and I'm just going to let that process in my own brain. 500 to 2,000 people a year disappear in Alaska. Authorities conduct hundreds of rescue missions, most often return without finding the missing person or any evidence at all. They could literally do like an unsolved mystery series on Alaska itself, apparently. Who knew, right? That's why I do this. That's why I do these videos. We're learning about Alaska, folks, and Alaska is a lot more shady than I ever thought. More shady than cold. These disappearances are blamed on everything from severe weather to aliens, to swirly energy vortexes, to an evil shape-shifting demon of Tlingit? Tlingit, I can't pronounce that. Tlingit Indian lore called Kustaka. But the most likely explanation for these many missing people is the wilderness itself. Within this area are dense forests, craggy mountain peaks, massive glaciers, hidden caves, and deep crevices where downed aircraft or lost hikers may easily be hidden and then covered by snowfall, hiding any trace of human activity. So, this is very interesting. So, if you've never been to Alaska, I haven't, but I know people who have. basically, if your assumption of Alaska is it's probably a lot of mountains and forests, you'd be right. So this is saying that a lot of times these planes just they go into the uncharted wilderness and they're never heard from again. So when other planes, fly over to rescue them, they don't know where to look. They could be piled under snow. They could be piled under trees. They could be piled under like crevices, like they were saying. So like think of what is that word called? Chasms. Like the Grand Canyon, except not the Grand Canyon, but like a peak, and a plane just drifts, loses energy, like loses its engine. I said energy. The engine just goes out and it boom into a chasm, into like a mountain peak, never to be seen again. That's pretty much what that's saying. This harsh landscape is also filled with wild animals and is subject to unforgiving weather, including avalanches. This is everything under the sun you could possibly think of. Which is why that when you bring up vortexes and aliens, it's like, okay, I know you're trying to be cool and bring in a ridiculous conspiracy theory, but there's caves, crevices, weather, avalanches, the snow, the embankments, animals. That's 7 things. Well, these articles are really just, there you go, there's a nugget for you. Boop. Another nugget for you. Boop. I should have probably done my research before I did the video, but what are you going to do? All right, waiting for this one to load. I don't think it's the same site. All right, there we go. The Triangle, a remote area infamous for alien abductions, Bigfoot sightings, paranormal phenomena, and vanishing airplanes. So we just pretty much did almost 10 minutes of just vanishing airplanes. With a little bit of Bigfoot, no aliens, and no paranormal phenomena. So you probably want some of that stuff. I know I do. So let's see if we can get some. All right, we already did that. Yep, we found that one too. Oh, here we go. A 1986 report made to the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, from a Japanese cargo flight provides the basis for one extraterrestrial theory. Ooh, a Japanese alien theory. That sounds like a cool name of a band, Japanese Alien Theory. Allegedly, Japan Air's Flight 1628 encountered 3 unidentified aerial phenomena above the expanse. Hold up. I've heard of UFOs, but unidentified aerial phenomena. UAP? Anyone ever heard of a UAP? This is news to me. The pilot reportedly thought the craft were military and paid them no mind. That's usually how it goes. Moments later, he realized that the objects were keeping pace and moving erratically around his own jet. Over the next 50 minutes, the strange aircraft shadowed Flight 1628's every move while emitting bursts of blinding lights. Insert reference here. The statements made to crew were verified by civilian and military radar, and the FAA report went on to garner national attention. Another theory postulates that the triangle is home to massive swirling energy vortexes. These energy centers are believed to impact human emotions and behavior based on their rotation. A clockwise spinning vortex creates positive effects, while a counterclockwise spin promotes negativity and bewilderment. Electronic readings have indeed found higher intensities of magnetic irregularities in Alaska, and search teams have reported compass and malfunctions up to 30 degrees off. So I don't trust compasses at all. I've never used one in my life, or maybe I have. I don't remember. I just don't trust them, especially in planes. They're going to malfunction. It's inevitable. Volunteers often recount experiencing mysterious symptoms while searching the area, including disorientation and audio hallucinations. Audio hallucinations. I've never heard that before. Usually hallucinations are like visual. Never, yeah. Up the negative Tinglet and Shishian people have their own explanation for the disappearances. The Kushtaka is a shape-shifting cryptid that stalks Alaska's wilderness, looking for human prey. Indian people are really into that. Like, they don't want to believe it's anything rational, but something like otherworldly. While often compared to the mythology of Bigfoot, the Kushtaka seem to operate in much more a sinister manner. According to the lore, the otter-like creatures. Oh, that looks like otters. An evil otter. According to lore, the otter-like creatures disguise themselves as trusted relatives or friends and appear to those who are lost or injured. Well, that's just wrong. Ultimately, they lead their victims deeper into the wild, ultimately tearing them apart or turning them into another Kushtaka. Okay. The legend is especially popular in southeastern Alaska. I bet it is. God damn. Despite the plethora of paranormal theories, the terrain itself offers the most likely explanation for the disappearances. See, what I talked about in the beginning. The massive glaciers that populate the area typically have a brittle upper crust. This layer can fracture at a moment's notice, opening deep crevices or moulins that can stretch all the way to the bottom of the glacier. Oh, wow. See, I didn't even mention glaciers. I forgot that it's Alaska, Justin. There's glaciers there. Wow. Imagine now, actually, I read about the glacier. Now imagine the Titanic, except instead of hitting the iceberg, it goes into the iceberg. As global ice recedes in response to climate change, more and more evidence is found of people and planes that had vanished into these massive fissures. That's really bizarre. All right, this will be a short video because again, these all of these sites are giving me little bits, and then they just go off. But but yeah, we've got pretty much the most of it. So now let's go over this, shall we? If you're like me, you didn't realize, well, you probably didn't realize the Alaska Triangle was a thing. Well, it is, and I just told you a little bit about it. Now, obviously, if you're with me here, then you'd be in agreement that the reason planes go missing is probably because of natural natural phenomena, weather inclements, glaciers, avalanches, terrain, mountains, caves, crevices, all that jazz. Bigfoot? There wasn't a heck of a lot on Bigfoot. I know that I've seen an episode where the Alaska Triangle just talked about Bigfoot. I'll say this much. I imagine the Bigfoot, if they are there, first of all, you have to be in the mindset that Bigfoot exists. If you're not going to do that, then this is going to sound like hogwash to you. But just hear me out. The Bigfoot that are in Oklahoma or Texas or Arizona or Iowa or Montana, different from the ones in Alaska. I imagine the ones that are in Alaska are similar to the ones in Russia. They're kind of like Yeti, abominable snowmen, if you will. Ones that can survive and withstand cold. Are they time traveling, vortex wielding hairy men? I don't know. I think that's going a little bit beyond. Do I think that there's creatures besides Bigfoot in the Alaska Triangle? Maybe. You can't rule it out. If you're into cryptids, you like to think that there's some kind of thing. The Kustaka, that's a little bit of, no offense to Native American folklore and stuff. It's just they tend to create really big stories. And I know that you want something to believe in. That's just a little much for me to believe. So you don't want to think that your loved one, like you're stuck in like the crevice of between a cave or like a mountain or whatever, and you see your loved one and they're like, hey, let me help you. And they rip you limb from limb. Oh, what? Like, no. Hopefully not. Do I think the Alaska Triangle is legit? Yes. I think it's more natural phenomena. I think there might be a few paranormal things. Sure, why not? All triangles tend to have this. Does it have anything on the Bermuda Triangle? Not in my opinion. To me, if you're going to talk about a triangle, it's Bermuda. But the Alaska Triangle also has its fair share of crazy, strange, weird shit. That is for sure. Last, let's close this video on the biggest thing of all. Kind of like unsolved mysteries. The missing people. 500 to 2,000 people a year. That is insane to me. Like, I know Alaska's big, but I naturally just assumed because Alaska was up in the boonies and it's cold as you know what, that people just were like, yeah, but it's got a large population. The last thing I would expect, though, is that large population of people to just randomly go missing without ever being heard from ever again. Like they dropped off the face of the earth. In Alaska. Like you'd expect that. Like, where would you expect that? Like, if you had to pick out of all the 50 states, which place would you expect people to go missing the most? There's a good question. I've never thought of that. I just randomly thought of it now. Do I have an answer to that question? I don't. Would I say Alaska? I would not. Even after having read that, still crazy thought to me. Still a crazy thought to me. But yeah, that was the Alaska Triangle. It was also the last episode of this season. I do hope you enjoyed the episode on the Mystery Triangle. Thank you to those that watch us on the playback. Thank you for tuning in throughout the season. I will be back for another season of Mystery Unsolved as soon as I gather some more unknowns and episodes that I can do. But do stay tuned, perhaps, for next week, as I will be returning for season 2, I think, of Mystery Ghost Stories. You may remember me doing this a while back. You probably don't, because who am I even talking to? But Mystery Ghost Stories will return, and I have some really good episodes for all of you for Mystery Ghost Stories. Like, if you enjoy Mystery Unsolved, Mystery Ghost Story is jam-packed with some really good ones that you've heard of, but never thought about in such a way. Kicking off Mystery Ghost Stories next week, I'll be talking about the death at the Hollywood sign. What do I mean? You'll have to find out. For Mystery Unsolved, this is Justin Bienvenu.